Funding for Austin Business Matters was provided by Division X Incorporated, where e-commerce meets e-marketing. Today's episode is Sales Mapping for Small Businesses, with Dr. Jan Triplett, hosted by Daniel Hudsky.
Welcome to the Austin Business Matters, the show to help you start and grow your business. I'm your host, Daniel Hudsky. Our guest today is Dr. Jan Triplett, who will be speaking about sales mapping. She is an entrepreneur, author, speaker, and the CEO of the Business Success Center. She's also the inventor of the BSC Sales Mapping Strategy System. Welcome to the show, Jan.
Thank you, Dan, for having me.
So, Jan, let's talk about the sales mapping. Why would you say businesses have such a hard time with sales?
I think, Dan, because they don't like to do it. And because most of the time when you are faced with sales opportunities, like leads, or somebody sends you something that you should follow up on, you don't know whether this is the priority or that's the priority, and it gets overwhelming, it gets hard to make decisions, and where do you go from there?
Let's talk about, me having a business, and I want to use your strategy here, or you invention, the sales mapping here. What would you say would be a good thing for me to start? How do I implement that in my business, or how do I even know that this exists?
Well, first thing you need to decide is that you don't want to just go after everyone who's breathing.
Okay.
All right? So if you decided that, then you're ready to do something different. And that means that you do need a process, you do need a strategy. My strategy that I call sales mapping is really designed to give you one process. But there are lots of them out there. Mine is just one of them. But it's really predicated on saying, I want a specific group because they are the most likely to buy.
So Jan, why do businesses have such a hard time getting sales?
In my experience, Dan, it's because they hate it. If they could do anything else, go to the dentist, they would do that instead of do sales. And part of that is because it's so tough. You're faced with all these choices. Right,
it kind of makes sense. If I really want to focus on what I'm making in my product rather than having to figure out who my sales targets will be, and this is what this targets, correct?
Exactly right. Yeah. Because when you have this opportunity to buy lists or get referrals, is you have to choose. Do I talk to these people first or those people first? Do I give everybody the same kind of attention? And the answer is no. Because if you do, you'll go broke because there's not enough time.
Right. So, all right. Can I give you an example of what sort of business?
Sure. Let's test this out.
Okay. So let's say I'm coding, a whole week's worth of software, and I came up with this great program that does something. Right?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I want to go ahead and sell this program. And how do I find my target audience for this software?
Okay. Let me ask you a couple questions. Is this product aimed at consumers or at businesses?
It's probably going to be the services that I want to provide through the software.
Okay, but are you aiming it for me as a householder that I have, there's a company in the Austin area, and that company goes in and helps people who have computers in their houses.
Okay.
Then there is a technique that you can use to create flyers or maps and hang them on people's doors. You've probably gotten them. Ever gotten one like that?
Yeah, sure, all the time.
Yeah.
They usually go straight in the garbage can.
Okay. Well, that industry is called the direct-to-door industry.
Yeah.
And they use a technique of sales mapping that is unique to them, where they will go to somebody like you, the owner, and say, here is who you could go after because they have the right demographics. Here we're talking about facts.
Okay.
We're talking about how old somebody is, how many computers they might have, et cetera. And from that, you can then map out where those people are located because there's a lot of information on the Census Bureau that those companies use to make those decisions. And then you say to that direct-to-door company, yes, I'd like to do that. And they put together a little design, a little map, and that is what they give to their people who deliver those. So you wouldn't want to deliver a flyer to somebody who doesn't have computers or a vacant house, right? The whole point about sales mapping in that case is I deliver to this door because they have 3 computers. This door has kids. This house is vacant, so I don't want to deliver there. And the whole premise of sales mapping, as the direct-to-door industry uses it and as I created, is to help you design a way to say, these are the empty houses and I don't want to go there. These are the ones that have kids and they have lots of computers and they have lots of television sets, and this is a prime target for me, what I call a platinum profile customer. And so that's who I want to go after. And that's the whole premise behind doing what we call sales mapping.
All right, so thank you for that example. How would I, as somebody that's actually working on this product, how am I discovering this? How much research would I have to do? How much work goes into that sort of mapping?
It's not as much research as it is decision making.
Okay.
So how good are you at decisions?
No, I'm pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to do some research for you. I'm going to say these are the people that have a need for the services, the computer services that you want to offer.
Okay.
You can choose between these people over here, and they have 4 computers, and these people over here, and they don't have any computers, but they have a home office.
Okay.
Who do you want to go after?
Well, that's what I'm hoping your sales mapping is going to help me to make a decision with, because I don't know. I mean, they could be potential target customer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why just knowing that much is not enough. So what sales mapping does, it gives you more detailed information beyond what are called demographics. What we call psychographics, where we're looking at attitudes and interests and opinions and values and lifestyle. It's a long list of stuff. But what you do is you categorize them. So these people who have 5 computers, they've got a young family. You have a feeling that they are into technology. So they're probably more interested in it if you're dealing stuff at the home. These people, they don't have any kids. They have a home office. So if I'm doing services at the home, these people would be platinum. These people might be what we call radioactive waste.
Wow, okay, so you're not interested
You don't want them.
in those
That's
at all.
right.
Okay.
And the whole point of sales mapping is you look, if you've been in business, so let's say you've been in business a couple of years. So you look at your history of sales. And this is what makes it easier and makes sales much more interesting and fun for people who hate sales. And as I said, most people hate sales. Is you say, okay, these people, not only have they bought a couple of times, but they've referred a number of people. And so they really deserve the kind of special exposure and experience with me. And so when their computer goes down on Friday night at 7:30, you bet I'm going to have somebody out there at Saturday morning at 9:30 because they're a good customer. Now these people over here, they're the home-based business. They don't have any computers. They just sort of have it and they don't use it very much. When they call, we're going to put them on the list and we'll see them on Monday. It's not that you're treating them badly. You're just saying that these people have more of a need. And that's what you want to concentrate on. And what that means is it saves you a lot of time and it saves you a lot of headache and a lot of money. Now, if you don't have a history because you're new in business, how do you do that? That's a different issue. So then you have to look at what are the facts that you can get about those people. So where do you go, Mr. Computer Man?
Well, okay, so one thing that I would probably want to do for people is just, use that as an example here, is I want to be a provider of domain name registration, which is something that's pretty common, right? So I want to help somebody to make it easy, so whether you just go to a website and, register their domain, whatever, make it easy. I need to find that target audience, because if you said if I advertise everywhere, well, I'm paying more for the advertisement rather than for just that target audience. So in the sales mapping, how would you then, I don't know if I don't think we want to provide specifics here, but in the sales mapping, where would I plug in this sort of, this goal to sell a domain registration to my customers?
Well, so who wants a domain? Probably not the home-based business.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So all of these nice people who have all these kids and they are all supposed to do it, they're no longer our target market. So we want to find businesses.
Right.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to people like Wishlist or Hoover's or Nielsen's, anybody who sells a list. And we're going to find out who those people are and do they already have a name, a domain name, or are they adding a product? And that means, Mr. Computer Man, you're going to look at Twitter, you're going to look at the trade publications, you're going to look at all that information to see who's doing what. And those are the people you're going to target. And those are going to go in the green area in the chart I have that says platinum, okay?
Yeah.
And what you're trying to do is to tell yourself, if you're the salesperson, and for most of us who are small businesses, we are the salesperson and the chief cook and bottle washer and the coder and everything else, is this is who I should focus on. So I'm going to aim my message and whatever I do to find these people and to follow up with them. So if you're at a meeting, so let's say that you go to the Austin Inventors and Entrepreneurs Meetup on the first Monday of the month, and you meet lots of people, and so somebody over here named John says, hey, Dan, go follow up with so-and-so because they've just started a business and they don't have a website. Well, how do you know from what he said whether he's platinum or he's radioactive waste?
Right.
So part of the sales mapping process is for you to determine, or you to determine with some help, what are the characteristics that make somebody platinum and somebody radioactive waste or somewhere in between.
Absolutely.
So let's say John gives you a really good lead and you follow up with them from the Inventors and Entrepreneurs Meetup.
Okay.
And they buy. And they're the best thing since sliced bread, and they refer you to everybody. So they get points, okay? John sends you somebody else. You thank John. Thank you, John, for giving me this one. So how about another lead, John? John gives you Mary. Well, Mary's a really nice person, but she doesn't return phone calls. She doesn't do what you tell her. She complains all the time. So there are a lot of things that have to do with your experience with them that even though she might have started out over here, she's kind of losing points as she goes down the road.
So she's losing points towards the
That's right.
radioactive zone.
That's
is that
right. That's right.
Yeah, there is. Actually, radioactive would be glowing, but yes.
Yeah, it does glow. Yeah. And you know the most interesting thing?
What is it?
It's that people think they know their customers, and when they begin to use the sales mapping system, is the people they thought were the best are like puppies. They're really
puppies.
Yeah, they're like puppies.
You mean
like
cute
them?
and
yeah, they're
cuddly?
Cute and cuddly, but they don't add a whole lot of value to the business. And what I tell people is it's okay to have one puppy, just not a whole string of puppies.
And these puppies could be radioactive?
They could be radioactive.
Okay, I see. So
but if nothing else,
they
they need potty training. Okay. So you need to move and make decisions based on your experience with them, based on what you read about them. So it takes research that you can do. You don't necessarily need to hire somebody, but you need to think about what are the questions that make this person very good and this person very bad for you. Because if you and I were in the same business, this might be flip-flopped. Okay, so what is radioactive waste to you might be really good for me.
Yeah, it doesn't really define that the people themselves are obviously radioactive.
No, but in terms of the value that they bring to the business. And I was at a meeting yesterday, and they were talking about trends. And one of the things that is true of trends is you have to make choices. Do I go after this? Is it really adding to what I want to do? And we talk in business about it adding to the bottom line. But having been in business a long time, is money only takes you so far. And one of the reasons that a lot of small businesses end up with a lot of puppies is because they're a lot nicer to work with sometimes than these really wonderful, high-paying people. And we have to make extra effort for them where the puppies are comfortable and we like working with them. They just don't pay so well. Or they have more problems than is really covered by your contract. And so it's really important to weigh that and say, kind of create sort of scholarships for the puppies so that you're really getting your money over here where you have to have it to pay your taxes, to hire people, and to do things like that. Make sense?
I understand that you actually give presentations on this topic quite a bit, and you have a lot of people come into your audience and you talk about this in front of a large audience. What sort of feedback are you getting from your interaction with your audience when you give a presentation on this? What do people ask you? What do they want to know?
They want to know what you want to know is, how do I know what I see? How do I put them into the categories? And that's why I said to you, a lot of it comes from your own experience. And not necessarily this John, this mythical John that we have sitting over here. It's really what you want out of the relationship with that customer. But you should be looking for more than money. You should be looking for people who add more value. So those values, and they get points for these, are referrals, that they give you ideas. So I have a GPS client, and one of his clients suggested we create a product. And so that client moved up the scale, because not only are they paying my client, but they gave him an idea that would be a good new product, a new software GPS product for that market.
Yeah.
And so he gets more points, and so he keeps moving up the scale. So it's kind of like keeping score. And what people want to know is, how do I get started, which is kind of deciding what the rules are.
Right.
And then how do I make sure that I'm doing it? Because you get started doing it and you need to keep doing it. And that's why I color-coded the sales mapping chart to visually be able to very quickly, for everybody in the office, whoever answers the phone, whoever does the coding, whoever cleans the toilets, to know that this is a prime customer and they deserve, because they have earned, special treatment.
All right, so let me put up a spectrum here. You have like you say, John buyer and then John provider, right? So who of these two would actually be aware of being targeted in this sales mapping? Are they both aware that they're part of the sales map, or is it just the John provider that is seeking the sales mapping to find John buyer, or are they both aware that they're part of the spectrum?
Well, remember, John is our referral system. He may or may not be a buyer, but let's make John the buyer, a buyer as well. He likes you so much that he keeps giving you leads.
Okay.
But if he's giving you leads that lead to more Marys, we have to tell John, whoa, go back a bit. This is who I need. This is the kind of customer that I can really serve and who's good for me. And then if John takes that in and makes the adjustment, John gets points. If John keeps sending you Marys, then we say, thank you, John, very much, but you never follow up on the Marys. There's a saying that you probably have heard, that 50% of leads are not followed up on. And people go, oh my gosh, 50% of the leads are not followed up on that I get. Well, but you don't know which 50% is not followed up on. It could be the bad set that you shouldn't follow up on, not the good set that you are. And the whole point about sales mapping systems is to do that.
Yeah, this is actually very interesting information. I'm looking forward to
Are you up for it?
I'm up for it.
Well, good.
Let's figure out how I fit myself into the
Okay.
map. It sounds to me like you really become a subscriber on either side of the sales map, really. If you're either a buyer, like you said, or maybe the provider. The provider obviously is more interested in being part of that, but the buyer also becomes a subscriber to this mapping, so he can become available for business.
They do. Yeah. You're exactly right. So you have a very handsome watch on your arm. There it is. And you are trying to support a city, Detroit, right?
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
And so I have a client who deals with watches, and for his platinum profile customers, they all belong to a special club. So he created a unique thing that the people who are not platinum want to get into. And so in the discussion that we just had before, John, who is our client and our referral source, is in this club. If John weren't in this club, by having X number of referrals, John maybe get in that club. So it's kind of taking an idea that's been used for years by the airlines. Every time you fly, you see all those VIP lounges.
Right.
Same idea. And it also combines something called lead scoring. And there are companies that probably in your email you've seen adverts for, buy this lead scoring tool and things of that sort. So it does use that concept, but it uses it from a very human standpoint, because when we're small business owners, the business is us. Even though you're out there coding and maybe I never see you, I know there's a Daniel behind that code. Every line that you write is your take on that thing. And that's what makes you unique. And this system of sales mapping is to demonstrate that uniqueness to yourself and to others by saying these people value it, these people not so much, these people not at all. And so you just send them to your competition and let them have at it.
All right, so we're really talking about market penetration here.
In a way?
Somebody that may not even know that they're a potential customer for something that I'm providing, and I'm going to penetrate their house or their business with the services that I provide. and therefore I can apply these the sales mapping. Is it a strategy, or is it a?
It's a system. We've just
okay.
talked about one piece of it, but I want to talk about what you said about penetrating them, that they might not know that they were. And that's right, is that it's your job as the business owner, as the owner investor in the business that you have, to say, these are the people we want to go after. And you've done your homework and done what we call pre-qualify. So just like in the example of direct to door, is you go to this business and not this business. You go to that one and not this one. And it really ends up sort of looking like a map with dots, and you can begin to see patterns.
Okay.
So the whole point about sales mapping is to find patterns, and so that easily you can recognize, or when somebody calls in, you have a series of questions you can ask them, and you can know immediately, is this a prospect that has the potential for being platinum, or is going to actually be some sort of a pain and be bronze, lead, concrete, or radioactive waste. That's the back
So
end
is
of
that the whole chart? You have what is it again? Is the platinum,
gold,
lead,
silver,
okay.
and then we have a dividing line.
Okay.
And then we go down to lead, bronze, lead, concrete, which is where I used to stop until I had a customer who said, I have customers who are worse than concrete. I grew up in Chicago, and to me, concrete is people who wear concrete galoshes and get dumped in the Chicago River. But he said, no, they're worse than that. There are people who glow, they're so terrible. So I said, fine, we'll call them radioactive waste. And all of us have them, all of us have had them, and what we want to do is not have them or not attract them. And one of the things that sales mapping does also, Dan, is you're going to do an ad. So you've got this ad, even if it's social media. So you're going to send out this message and this message through Hootsuite or Twitter or whatever. You want it to target the things that this group value and not attract these people. You want to turn them off so they don't call you. They don't take your time. They don't ask you stupid questions. It's not that they're stupid, it's just that you offer something else.
They just don't have experience with my business, I have to say. But so Jan, it sounds to me like you said that you have a line at the silver level.
Right.
Would you stop there and then basically do not go underneath, or would you still try all the way down to the radioactive level? Or
I stop at silver.
Silver, okay.
Right.
That's my understanding as well. All right.
And platinum is obviously the highest. Most of us have a couple of those. We may have that as a goal, but we don't get a lot of them. But if we get a lot of the others, we go broke, okay?
Right.
Because they're taking too much of our time.
The cost of your business
That's
gets,
right.
It gets out of line. You really want to have,
right.
Do minimum effort and most sales, really.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want people who want what I have to offer. If it's not appropriate for them, and I want to go back to the question you asked me at the very beginning, is why is sales so hard? And it's because people read books that say you should persuade them, you should convince them, you should give them a solution. Well, you know what? Not everybody wants a solution. Some people are perfectly happy being miserable, okay? Okay.
What about begging? Can I beg? Is
No.
that in the
No.
list?
And so,
Please buy my product.
yeah, well, but you're going to be sorry you did. And I can't think of any business owner I've ever talked to that didn't regret convincing somebody to buy their product. Is that turned out bad for both sides. So if you can have a system that allows you to identify the people who are already predisposed, is they're going to be happier, they're going to tell more people like them, and that's what you want to do, is it attracts them. Anytime you get a prospect, the highest they can ever be is silver at the beginning until you get a chance to qualify and move them up or move them down.
Okay.
And the whole point of sales is not to sell. It's to give someone that you want an opportunity to buy what you have at the price you want to charge.
Okay,
That's all that sales is all about.
So let me see if I can summarize this, right?
Okay.
I'm looking at 100 people out there in, whatever, a square or something, and somebody there is raising their hand saying, hey, I'm looking for this, I want to buy this, but nobody else around them hears because they're just in a crowd of people. But here, really, mapping, the sales mapping, helps me to identify them immediately out of the crowd and basically reconcile with them to bring them in, to identify them and reconcile it and
That's
bring them
right.
in as a customer.
That's right.
And therefore we have then the production here where I make something and you just buy it, and it really makes it very shortcut to right to the
Absolutely.
buyer. Yeah.
And you don't have to feel like you're pushing somebody to buy something, because it feels sort of slick and dirty sometimes for a lot of owners. That's what I hear a lot. So a sales mapping system, whether you use mine or somebody else's, where you've made those decisions, allows you to justify maybe, but it actually really works. You know, you actually do see higher profits when you are attracting the people who want what you have. We have a tendency sometimes as human beings, and maybe it's not true in some other countries, but it's certainly true in the United States, is you should want what I have. And
Okay.
a songwriter named Tim Henderson wrote a song a long time ago that a man named Alan Damron sang called, "I Won't Should on You If You Won't Should on Me." I don't want anybody to should me when it comes to sales, and most small business owners don't want to either. They really want people to engage with that are already committed. Those are what we call yeses. But what happens is we think we need to convince, and so we go after the no's or the maybes. And my point to you and to the audience is don't bother with them. There are plenty of yeses out here if you know what you're looking for.
Right.
What a sales mapping system, making these decisions ahead of time, does is it lets you see those people as if they all were wearing bright orange for our Texas team or red for the Aggies or whatever team color they were, but they're all on the same team. And what you want with sales mapping is you want your team out there to use what you have and to bring in more team and more cheerleaders.
Fantastic. So tell me, is this information defined anywhere on the internet that I can go look it up and find it?
Well, I have written some blogs and blog posts about it, and I have some articles in allbusiness.com that I write for. There are lots of places where you can find out about the concept of lead scoring, or a number of the sales programs do have some sort of a system where you can do that. I like mine. Not only did I invent it, my father was an inventor, so it's kind of fun to invent something.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But because it's very systematic and practical and easy, and that's what you want if you're a business owner, because you're busy coding. You don't need to have some
right.
complex system.
We're getting to the end of the program. What would you like the audience to take away, Jan?
I want them to make a conscious decision to go after a certain group. Not just anybody who's breathing, Dan, but the people who could be the best thing that you ever had in your business, what we call platinum profile people, and not the radioactive waste. So not anybody who's breathing, but the people you really want. That's going to make life so much better for everybody.
Outstanding. I'm a fan already. So thank you, Jan, for being our guest.
Thank you, Dan. It was a lot of fun.
I'm Daniel Hudsky. Join us next time on Austin Business Matters.